The night I found the pregnancy test in my bathroom trash, the one that wasn't mine, was the same night my husband told me his 24-year-old mistress was moving into our guest wing. For the baby's sake, he said. What he didn't know. I'd been planning my revenge since the first time I smelled her perfume on his collar. And by the time I was done, they'd wish they'd never heard my name. They thought having his child made her untouchable. They thought my quiet acceptance meant defeat. But every day they spent playing house in my penthouse, I was gathering evidence. Every whisper, every secret, every lie, I collected them all. And when I finally struck, I didn't just take everything from them. I made sure the whole world watched them fall. Dear friend, let me give you a background story and remind you to subscribe to this channel if you like interesting stories like this. My name is Alina Morty, 38 years old, living in a Manhattan penthouse that featured in architectural magazines. Married to James Wellington III, heir to a hotel empire. The perfect life, right? What the magazines didn't show was the slow erosion of my marriage, the way James's eyes had started to wander, the way he'd begun criticizing everything from my career to my choice of wine. Coupled with the fact that we did not yet have children, James had begun to misbehave, and I was sincerely tired of it all. The mistress's name was Sasha. Sasha with the collagen lips and the Instagram following. Sasha who'd been our interior designer until she decided to redesign my marriage. I'd known about her for 6 months, the late nights at the office, the business trips that never quite added up, the scent of her cheap perfume that lingered on his suits. But the pregnancy test, that was a declaration of war. I found it on a Tuesday evening. James was at another business dinner, and I'd been cleaning out the bathroom cabinets, something I normally left to the staff, but I'd been feeling restless. There it was, tucked behind the extra toilet paper, like a dirty secret. Positive. My hands didn't even shake. I felt this strange, cold calm settle over me. This wasn't a surprise, this was confirmation. When James came home that night, I was waiting in the living room, the pregnancy test sitting on the coffee table between us like a centerpiece. He didn't even try to deny it. "Alina," he said, with the weary tone of a man announcing a business decision. "Sasha's pregnant. She's moving into the guest wing tomorrow." I actually laughed. "You can't be serious." "It's for the baby," he said, as if this made perfect sense. "She needs stability, proper care, and we have the space." The audacity took my breath away. "You want to move your pregnant mistress into our home?" "Our home?" He gave me that condescending smile I'd come to hate. "My name is on the deed, Alina. And let's be honest, without my family's money, you'd still be designing window displays at Macy's." That's when I saw the full picture. This wasn't just an affair. This was a takeover. Sasha moved in the next day. She arrived with Louis Vuitton suitcases and a smirk, her hand resting protectively on her barely showing stomach. "I hope this isn't too awkward for you, Alina," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. I smiled my perfect society wife smile. "Not at all, dear. Make yourself at home." And I meant it, because while they thought they were setting up their perfect little triangle, I was setting a trap. You see, James had forgotten one crucial thing. Before I was his wife, I was Alina Morty, the girl who put herself through college by working 3 jobs. The woman who built a successful design firm before she ever took his name. And more importantly, I knew every secret of this penthouse because I designed the security system myself. The cameras were supposed to protect us from outsiders. Now they would protect me from the enemies within. Living with your husband's pregnant mistress is a special kind of hell, but it's also the perfect opportunity to gather intelligence. And honey, I was the best spy they never saw coming. Every day under the same roof was another chapter in the masterpiece of revenge I was writing, and they were unwittingly providing all the ink. The first month was about establishing patterns and exploiting their arrogance. James thought he was so clever, sneaking into the guest wing after I'd gone to bed, not realizing I had motion sensors tracking his every move. Sasha thought she was subtle, making comments about how certain styles were becoming dated while looking directly at my designer furniture. They had no idea I had audio sensors in every air vent. pinhole cameras in the common areas, and full access to all their digital communications through the Penthouse's secured network that I'd personally designed. I learned everything. How they planned to have me declared mentally unstable once the baby was born. How Sasha was already working with a real estate agent to sell my Hamptons estate. How James was slowly liquidating our joint investments and moving assets to numbered accounts in the Cayman Islands. They were so confident, so sure of their victory, they discussed their plans over breakfast while I poured their coffee. But the real gold came when I discovered Sasha wasn't who she claimed to be. It started with small inconsistencies that anyone less observant would have missed. She mentioned growing up in Milwaukee and knowing specific neighborhoods, but weeks earlier she told me she was from Boca Raton and had never been north of Atlanta. Then I found an old driver's license she'd carelessly discarded in the trash, a different name, Stacy Mulligan, from Ohio, with a birth date that made her 31, not 24. That's when I hired Michael, a private investigator so discreet he made ghosts look loud. What he uncovered in just 72 hours would become the centerpiece of my revenge. Sasha's real name was indeed Stacy Mulligan from Dayton, Ohio. She had a criminal record that read like a manual on financial fraud, 3 counts of embezzlement, 2 for identity theft, and an outstanding warrant in Florida. The pregnancy was her specialty. She'd pulled the same fake pregnancy trick on 2 previous wealthy men, settling out of court both times when they discovered the truth, but wanted to avoid scandal. But the real masterpiece of their deception, she was working in concert with James's business partner, Richard, to systematically embezzle funds from the family company. The pregnancy was their insurance policy leverage to ensure James would be too distracted and emotionally manipulated to notice the millions disappearing. They'd even created fake medical records and sonogram images, all stored on a hidden drive I found when I cloned Sasha's laptop. The depth of their betrayal took my breath away. This wasn't just an affair. This was a coordinated financial and emotional heist, and I was the obstacle they needed to remove. Meanwhile, I perfected my role as the gracious, long-suffering wife. I attended charity galas on James's arm, smiling for the society pages that would soon be printing his mugshot. I hosted dinner parties where I'd compliment Sasha's radiant pregnancy glow, while secretly recording their whispered conspiracies. I even helped her decorate the nursery, all while planting additional surveillance in the light fixtures. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was reviewing the security footage from James's study when I discovered he wasn't just cheating emotionally and financially. He'd been using company funds to pay for Sasha's boutique design firm, which was actually a shell company routing money to offshore accounts. But what made my blood run cold was the conversation I captured that night. "We need to accelerate the timeline," Sasha whispered to James. "The longer Alina stays, the more risk she poses." James sighed, looking tired. "The mental health evaluation takes time to arrange. We need the doctors to properly document her instability." "I'm just worried she might do something drastic," Sasha pressed, her voice dripping with fake concern. "What if she has an accident before we can get her the help she needs?" The way she said "accident" with that calculated pause made the hair on my arms stand up. They weren't just planning to ruin me, they were discussing eliminating me. That night, I started making multiple encrypted copies of everything. Bank statements showing the embezzlement, secret recordings of their plans, text messages coordinating their schemes. I stored it across multiple secure cloud accounts and safety deposit boxes, ensuring that even if they discovered one, the evidence would survive. But I needed one more thing, undeniable, public proof, that would destroy them so completely they could never recover. I needed them to confess everything in front of witnesses who mattered. So I threw the party of the century, the Wellington Annual Charity Gala. 200 of New York's most influential people in my penthouse. James thought it was about maintaining appearances until the divorce. Sasha thought it was her debutante ball, her introduction as the new Mrs. Wellington. They had no idea they were about to star in their own public execution. There's a particular satisfaction in watching people walk willingly into their own destruction. The night of the gala, I wore red, the color of warning, the color of blood, the color of revenge. The penthouse glittered with New York's elite. Champagne flowed, diamonds sparkled, and Sasha held court in a dress so tight it looked painted on. James beamed like a man who'd won the lottery. What they didn't know was that I'd replaced all the decorative mirrors with two-way glass. Behind them, my lawyer and 2 private investigators watched everything. And the beautiful floral centerpieces, they contained the best audio equipment money could buy. The show began at exactly 9:17 p.m. I'd timed it perfectly, after the 3rd round of champagne, when inhibitions were low and tongues were loose. I found James and Sasha in his study, thinking they were alone. Through the two-way mirror that had replaced the Renoir, I watched them celebrate. "It's almost over," Sasha purred, stroking James's face. "Once the transfer goes through tomorrow, we'll have everything." 16 million should set us up nicely, James agreed, kissing her. "And once Alina signs the divorce papers." "I still think the accident would have been cleaner," Sasha pouted. "But I guess the mental breakdown story works too." I felt ice in my veins. An accident. They'd actually discussed killing me. That's when I made my move. I didn't confront them. Oh no. I walked to the center of the ballroom, tapped my champagne flute, and smiled at my 200 guests. "If I could have everyone's attention," I said, my voice carrying through the suddenly quiet room. "I have a special presentation for our honored guests tonight." I nodded to my tech team and every screen in the penthouse, from the massive entertainment system to the tablets in the kitchen lit up with their faces. Then I played the highlights. Their conversations about the embezzlement, their plans to have me committed, Sasha's real identity and criminal record, James's offshore accounts, and finally, the clip from moments before their discussion of the accident. The silence was deafening. Then the chaos began. James lunged toward me, but 2 security guards who I'd paid triple their normal rate restrained him. Sasha started screaming, a high, hysterical sound that was cut off when she realized every phone in the room was recording her. The best part, I'd invited the SEC and IRS as my plus ones. They introduced themselves to James right there in the ballroom. The fallout was nuclear. James was arrested for embezzlement before the last guest had left. Sasha was taken in for questioning about her fraudulent past. The Wellington family stock plummeted 40% in pre-market trading. But I wasn't done. The next morning, I filed for divorce with evidence so overwhelming James didn't have a leg to stand on. I got the penthouse, the Hamptons estate, and a settlement so large his lawyers actually gasped. Then I released everything to the press, not as a scorned wife but as a whistleblower. The Wellington scandal, as it came to be known, became front-page news for weeks. Today, the penthouse is mine alone. James is serving 5 years in white-collar prison. Sasha, or Stacy, is fighting deportation to face charges in 3 states. And the $16 million they tried to steal, it's the foundation of the Alina Morty Foundation for Women Escaping Financial Abuse. The moral of the story: never underestimate the woman who is quiet and seems simple. They thought they could take everything from me. Instead, they gave me the means to build something better. And every time I look at the Manhattan skyline from my penthouse, I thank them for the motivation.